Welcome back to the Wreckless podcast. This is Cody Storts back in the good old bar lounge here at Wreckless with some old friends trying some Cakebread now. Thank you guys very much for joining me again. I'm intrigued here. I'm a Chardonnay fan. I think everybody goes through their phases. I went through a big Grenache and like a Chianti phase and Chateauneuf-du-Pape and, the big Italian stuff. And I really settle back and I go to a nice place and I'm always wanting a crisp white wine like a nice girl should.
Totally.
So talk to me, man. What's round one here?
So round one is the Napa Chardonnay. It's 100% pretty much now Carneros from their estate in Carneros. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of drinking a Chardonnay that's right in that middle ground of, Chardonnays. We've talked earlier about Rombauer being the big butter bomb, big oak bomb. This one's that happy medium. You got that cool climate from Carneros, but you also got a little bit of oak treatment that's kind of a little bit, used and a little bit new. And then you've also got just a little bit of malolactic fermentation, which is that kind of creamy sensation, that buttery sensation to a little bit. So that's all kind of balanced out by that high acidity from that cool climate. So this is that, like I said, if you're not really a Chardonnay drinker, you kind of can gravitate towards this. If you're a Chardonnay drinker that likes something big and rich, you can still kind of gravitate towards this as well. It's going to have something for everybody in some senses.
Yeah, this is not I hate it Chardonnay, even if you don't like Chardonnays.
I think it's a really clean expression of what Chardonnay should be.
Right.
The over-manipulated oaky stuff doesn't do it for me. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, these guys have been doing it for 45 years. So the first vintage of Chardonnay was 73. They didn't have any property at that point, but they kind of bought some fruit. But yeah, these guys have been doing it for a long time, and it's kind of crazy how they've been doing it so consistent. So if we want to get into the next one.
Yeah, that is tasty, man.
The next one basically is definitely a lot bigger. This is more of that kind of Rombauer-esque style. So you're talking 8 months in oak, and the first one now going into about 16 months. So you're kind of double everything up. So you're getting into almost now 50% mallow on this as well, going from a quarter.
So just to explain, I don't know. I mean, what is the mallow process actually doing? So what are we introducing? Because I know and that is what we're creating, like the mouthfeel, the unctuousness, the if on your teeth. That's all that mallow. Yeah.
So malolactic fermentation basically is taking that malic acid, that kind of green tart sensation, like if you eat something that's a green fruit in a sense, it's really high in acid, and changing to lactic acid, that creamy sensation, that buttery sensation. It's just a basically fermentation process that goes through, and you can do with or without it, but it just gives you that mouthfeel. And some people decide to have their wines go through some of it, all of it. It just depends on the direction that you want to go. But having a little bit kind of gives you just that richness, just a little bit of mouthfeel.
Yeah, it gives it body.
Yeah,
right. Without a body, kind of lets it go flat.
So this one's definitely a lot more, but this one's focusing on a couple different vineyards that are way more focused on cooler climate and way more focused on having higher acidity. So they pick it a little bit earlier. They pay attention to this a little bit earlier. And the reason why they want to have a little bit higher acidity is they want that balance, because they're doing a lot more oak to it. They're doing more mallow to it, more butter. And they want it to come off clean and fresh still, but they also want it to have that big richness to it. So that's kind of where you jump in from this to the reserve. And the crazy part is we're on 2014. They've actually only been doing this since 2010.
This wine right here?
This wine right here, yeah. So
because the other one, the first one's balanced great. The mineral factor in it's great. This one has more of a longevity on it, longer on the tongue. Seems like more like a food wine, right? Like this is more like you'd have with any dinner. I'd even put a fatty steak with this. Just because you could take the black pepper and a few other things or herbs. Yep. The first one seems more like drinking wine, right? Well-rounded. I don't really need a whole lot with it. I could just have a glass of wine before we start dinner. Yep. Kind of in the champagne category. I feel like we're getting more into food wines as we go forward. Am I wrong?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is Orange County too, so you see a lot of moms drinking at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's kind of like, hey, it's great. It's easy to drink, and
I think it's just Ryan and I. What are you talking about? 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we go out. We're like, where's all the?
I gotta find these restaurants.
Yeah. We should start promoting. We need to open one of those. Just call it Mom's Drinking It Too. Maybe that's the next thing.
Mom's
Pub.
We're on it. There we go.
Yeah, dude.
Totally. So it's one of those things. It is an easy drinking wine. You don't have to think about it. It kind of goes down easy. Price tags are a little bit tough on everybody for everyday drinking, but this is definitely one of those things where.
So, and all these are available at like Total Wine and stuff, right? Or no?
So for the most part, they keep everything out of the mainstream. They're going to be in there to some degree.
No Walmart.
No Walmart, definitely not. No, for sure Costco. Costco's always a no matter what happens. Cakebread will never be in a Costco. But you'll see kind of little bits here and there. So 9 wines are totally distributed nationally, outside of the actual wine club where they make like 50 wines. And even then, 3 of those 9 wines are super, super limited, which we're going to taste some of the 3 Cabernet, one of the 3 Cabernets, where basically California gets, 20 cases a year. as an allocation, so super small.
Yeah,
and
that's
six
awesome.
packs. Yeah.
Now, and is that the stuff coming out of Napa now, or is that Washington?
That's all Napa. So the Benchlands is their kind of small vineyard. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
Next
we're just going on the road. We're making good time, man.
Totally.
So don't,
So totally. So like I was telling you about earlier, that 2005 family pack that they decided to do.
Right.
So the idea is, how do you expand production? How do you grow yourselves without really taking away from the Cakebread label itself, and also taking away from what you're doing up in Napa, since you've got so many acres up in Napa. And the whole idea is you find somewhere new. So that's kind of what they're doing. So being that they're very focused on the Bordeaux blends, they went up to Washington, the Columbia Valley, basically. Decided to find a couple properties. They don't own anything yet, so they're kind of leasing vineyards with long-term contracts right now.
Here's a question for you. What as far as you keep bringing up Bordeaux blends, I'm a huge fan of French wines.
Yep.
I am like, that is to me, it's not because I think it's the oldest or whatever. I think they figured it out. I think there's complexity in their wine. I think you can drink it young, old.
Yeah.
I open French wines. I don't decant them on purpose because they change. I mean, I'm a fan of their style, Bordeaux styles. Yeah. Out here, I feel like if I go to Napa or Paso and I bring up, man, I'm really a fan of Bordeaux styles, they're like, they like shun on that shit. And I'm like, why? What's the deal? And now I hear it coming back, and this was probably 3 or 4 years ago when nobody was talking about French wines. Yeah. It was hard, and I know, like we even talked. It's like you couldn't sell a French wine if you're like, it's like trying to give away cancer, man. It's horrible, right? Yeah. It's absolutely the worst thing on the planet. But now I'm hearing California wineries in this podcast talking about Bordeaux styles and Bordeaux things instead of being a GSM or instead of being these West Coast styles. Is that something you guys are intrigued by, or is that coming back, or am I the only fruit ball that hears it, or what's up, man?
So Bordeaux varietals are Cabernet Sauvignon, Cab Franc, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot. So basically everything that you see in the Napa side, you're still seeing Cabernet driven stuff. All the big boy cabs, all the big boy red blends that you see in California are all going to have that to some degree. It's just more of a focus on those five, because obviously people will throw in some Syrah or some Zin or whatever in the red blends. So that kind of throws it away. You can't really call it a Bordeaux blend if it's got Zinfandel in it, or if it's got Syrah in it, or Petit Syrah. But
most coming out of the West Coast are GSMs, no?
No, GSMs typically are Central Coast just because of the climate, or you got Paso, which is kind of like East Side Paso. It's the only thing that kind of really grows really well. It's hot and arid and everything out in East Side Paso. So, like Tablets Creek is an awesome name that's always done really, really good job at doing that stuff. But everybody kind of always gravitates. I think Cabernet is the main varietal that everybody kind of gravitates towards, just because it's just the moneymaker, right? Even if you have the shittiest piece of land in the world, you're going to have a Cabernet and going to go, I'm going to charge $100 no matter what.
That's why I sell a filet.
Yeah.
I don't eat them. I don't like them, but I sell a filet because everybody that comes out and wants to be fancy, they think a filet is great.
And they think it's worth paying, $50 for an 8-ounce filet, right?
And that's, so I get it.
Regardless.
Maybe that's just me hoping that French style is coming back. I don't know, man.
Cab is king for sure.
For sure.
I think the interesting thing is you see areas like Paso Robles, which is so much hotter. Try to make Cab and Merlot. And look, some of these vineyards can really do it, but everyone wants to make Cab all over the state, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be great. Same to be said for Pinot. I mean, there's just certain grapes that grow better in certain parts of the state. But he's right. Yeah, Cab is king. But I think things like you're talking about, the GSM, some of those, kind of lighter blends are exciting, and I see them coming up. And I'm seeing a big push for interesting blends. Like Cab and Zin blends, Cab Syrah blends, that kind of stuff.
Crazy, and tell me if I'm wrong, but the red blends right now, people are gravitating to. Wine makers, people are starting to gravitate to like they did chefs.
It's the hottest segment of growth in the wine industry.
Yeah, is it people are coming up to wine makers now and going, oh my God, you made this wine. And I'm hearing not less about terroir, less about styles, less about vintage, because that'd always be a thing.
Yep.
However, you hear about Orrin Swift and Dave Finney and these winemakers like you're talking about that are actually making it, that are not even telling us where their juice is coming from.
I think
I haven't tried that yet, right? What are you doing over there, buddy?
I think that's the biggest key is that
you're pouring out wine. Well, what we're doing here.
You gave me one job. I
thought you said I give you a wine job. I was like, wow, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Reach around maybe wine job? I don't know, dude. I don't know.
No, it's interesting because you think about what they're doing, and there is no regulation whatsoever. But you got a great winemaker that knows what they're doing. They can craft some really cool stuff.
So that's a real thing, though. That's what I mean. See, so from my side, I know food is my thing. I know what I know about wine from school and what I've drank and what I've learned from being around. I know nothing about names or grant. Like when I sit down, I was like, I don't know what's going to sell. I just know what's good. You bring me 20 bottles of wine, I can try it and say I like it, and that's it. That was my knowledge. And now as I grow into it, I'm starting to see what people are following and doing. And the winemaker thing's a trip for me. Like I'm like, dude, I'm gonna go into finding barrels and trying to make good wine. And if it doesn't matter where it comes from, and you could just put like wine by so and so, and it's a red blend, and there's no year, like that's crazy to me. But if it's good, it's good, right?
Yeah, well, think about like the fusion, cuisine back in the '90s and that whole thing, how that blew up.
I try to avoid that with every fiber of my being. Anything fusion to me is like, oh my god.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like you can blend everything, and I think the same thing with everything else. The more that you have at your fingertips, the more that you can kind of, you can be a chef with 3 items, but if you have 100 items, hell yeah, now I can create something. So the same idea with the winemaker. The more they have to play with, the more they can start playing towards their consumers and their audience. But it's a slippery slope one way or the other, because you only have a finite amount of quality juice, and then going outside of that, then you're playing with and manipulating par juice at that point. So, but again, people can do really great things, and they can kind of make something from different areas.
So we don't have like rules like that in California, right? In California, you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want. You put a label on it as long as it's there's no like. I don't. You tell me. I'm asking, not telling.
No,
I don't know.
There are some rules, but it's still basically when it comes to winemaking and when it comes to pretty much anything, I would say in California, we're kind of the wild, wild west still.
Right.
We can pretty much do whatever needs to be done. There's no governing body, even though there's governing aspects of, where it comes from, like AVAs and whatnot. But as far as like, government official going to winery and checking in barrels, never going to happen.
So there's no EOC, AOC, French rules. No. There's no like, it have to do this, it has to do that. Because when I learned about wine, that's what I thought everything was. And as I get into it, I realized that as Americans, like most things, we're like, well, fuck it. Right? I know that was cool for you guys over there, you French bastards, but here, like, whatever we want to do. And like I said, every time I have one of you guys on, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
There are more guidelines than rules. And no one really strictly follows them. So it's a guideline. It doesn't mean that they're going to do it. It's supposed to be done. Like you're supposed to look at a label and go, there's at least 80% of something here, or there's at least a certain percentage of alcohol here. But
no, I'm getting wines that straight say a winemaker's name on it. Yep. It says red blend and where it was packaged.
Yep.
And that's it. And I'm going, well, that's good, but what the hell? Like, what is, okay, you made great wine, but I absolutely I know nothing about it. And when you look it up, it's like the picture of the dude's face,
yep,
smiling on, and that's welcome to my wine, yep, right? Like, and to me, it's the Sesame Street kind of version of it, because I know what it takes to make, like, from a single vintage, from growing the grapes to, I don't know, but I know the stories, and I know that I couldn't do that. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But some do monkey over here that can buy barrels of juice from whoever, and then blend them. Maybe he's got the right, the right idea, and we're all the monkeys. I don't know.
I think you hit on the head. I think like anything else, like a restaurant, like a winery. So if you have to know what you're getting into, you have to know the quality, you have to know the story behind it, because I think that kind of pretty much always helps. Buying something, labels, everything is all marketing. But again, it's one of those things where I think the cream will definitely rise to the top, and I think that's kind of the whole thing, and I think it always does. I think the sad thing about that is I think there's always a price tag or a premium that's being put on that versus restaurants, versus wines, versus whatever. So it's hard for consumers to really be able to enjoy that, especially like the middle class, as it kind of gets, pampered down. But we won't get into politics too much more than that.
No. What I like, by the way, I just smelled and tasted this. Which one is this that I had right now?
This is the Mullen Road. This is the Washington Valley, Columbia Valley.
That is very delicious. This is also a very mild drinking, mild wine. This is not a smack in your face. This is not this is no Van Dam for sure. But and I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not like a big tannin guy or whatever. This is a very well balanced red for sure.
So as we get into the next one's going to be a little bit bigger in your face.
Yeah.
So this one,
I enjoy this. I feel like you're kind of going from like drinking wine, like, and I hope everybody understands what I'm saying when I say like this is a classic. Like I could sit and have a glass of this with nothing else.
Yeah.
Put this with a big cheese and it kind of get lost a little bit.
Totally.
And that's fine. Wines have that place, and I think it's perfect for that. Delicious, man. Delicious.
Yeah. So this is that wine that you're drinking right now is kind of that middle ground. It's not quite the Cakebread price point where you're looking at $80. This is more along the lines of like a $40 retail. It's got great scores behind it, but it's got that pedigree. It's got that concentration, those low yields on this. The one that you're going to start drinking now, which is the 2014 Benchland Select, is actually really, really cool. So this is actually part of a property that Jack and Dolores bought right across from the winery in 82. It's the 12-acre property that's Cab and Cab Franc. It's blended with another vineyard that they've always had since like the late 70s called Vine Hill Ranch, which is a well-known vineyard up in Napa. If you've ever been to Napa and you've gone to Mustard's Cafe, Mustard's Cafe is an iconic restaurant out there, and this vineyard is right behind Mustard's Cafe, and it goes all the way up to the hillsides of Yountville. but you've got some big boys like Beckstoffer and Staglin that are all part of this, vineyard area. And this is a blend of 50-50 of those, so it's basically Oakville and Rutherford. So you kind of get this cocoa powder kind of esque smell and flavor, which is very much Rutherford dust, as they call it. And then you get this black fruit, black cassis, almost like tarry kind of consistency. That's Oakville fruit, like Oakville Cabernet, and it's really kind of cool. And then you get that 22 months of oak on that, and it's just kind of like, wow. So this is kind of a treat because, again, we only see probably 60 cases, 66 packs, so 360 bottles basically a year from this designate. And
Ryan, I'd love to hear your feedback on this because I'll let you talk before me on this one.
Oh, this is great. No, this is wonderful. Yeah, I would drink this all day, and I think worth every penny too. I mean, higher end wines are often higher end for a reason, and I think this definitely. Well, it's a beautiful wine.
Yeah,
I might let it breathe
delicious.
a little bit longer, but it's that's very nice.
Yeah, let's just decant it and drink the bottom. What are you talking about? I mean, shit, we already started, right?
It's past 12. We're good.
I mean, I had plans, but this
Uber to pick up the kids later, but it'll be fine.
It'll be good, dude. She's down, dude. I'll make a phone call. You'll be all right, dude. She'll be mad at me this time, not you.
I'm here then.
You got an excuse.
Delicious, man. I think the tannins on this are perfect. It cleans up in about enough that I would put food pairings with it, and it could hold its own. I think that this is a steak wine, and I usually don't say that about big cabs. I'm a weird guy about it.
Yeah.
I actually think big cabs should go with buttery fish, and the reason is because it complements with acids.
Yep.
Sometimes citrus and grapefruit goes with the biggest cabs I've ever had. Technically, I think that most people would laugh at me when I say that, but when they eat it with me or when they do it and they see what I'm saying, and I make a grapefruit Beurre Blanc and then a big cab, you're like, wow, that's crazy.
Totally.
And I think that aging is what allows you to do that versus a young wine where you can't.
Yep.
A grapefruit Beurre Blanc would bury a young Cabernet, even if it's a tannic bomb, dude.
Totally.
This is a very well balanced wine, man. This is great, dude.
That's great.
Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of along those lines too. Like, I think kind of opposite of what everybody else does when it comes to food and wine. For me, like, I think champagne is actually rosé champagne, and we're talking champagne, France, right? With steak. People kind of look at me and they go, why the hell would you ever do that? And I'm like, you got the acid, it cuts through, you've got some of the flavor profiles, and I'm hopefully getting a good piece of meat, right? I want to enjoy the meat. I don't want to enjoy the wine, technically. I do want to enjoy it, but...
Plus, we all look good holding a glass of rosé every once in a while.
Yeah,
you got to, like...
Pinky up
liven
and
up a little
everything,
bit,
right?
you know?
Keep you humble.
Absolutely. You got to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Fresh. A rosé all day. And I agree with you, man. Pairings are epic. I can't. I didn't even know you guys did reds until you guys were coming on. To be honest with you, so I'm a little shocked, man. Did you know anything about that, right?
Oh yeah, we used to sell, I think at least the Chard, Merlot, and Cab. Still do Merlot?
We still do the Merlot, yeah. So,
it's been a few years though, so we'll have to have you come back down and taste our wine guy at the cellar.
totally, yeah.
And what's going on with
this
Merlot
stuff's
right
awesome.
now? That's delicious. That is a win, 100%.
Merlot has always steadily been like the #1 selling varietal, even though everybody kind of knocked it from sideways.
Yeah, did you guys not like jump up and down a protest? You guys should have formed a Merlot PETA group against that movie. Like, I don't understand because I love Merlots, dude. I think Merlots right now, bang for your buck, winning. I've got Merlots that are coming right now, and I'm like, dude, this drink's just like a cab, costs half as much.
Right.
Totally.
Well-rounded fruit, little tannins. Go with food. I'm like, what? Why is everybody so pissed?
And you ask someone under 25, what the hell sideways, and they're gonna go, I've never seen that. What is
Perfect.
it?
That
So
means
they have
it's
no clue,
gone.
right?
Good,
So that's
good.
kind of one of those things where I think it kind of had its phase. I think people still kind of talk about it and laugh about it, but Merlot was always gonna be there. I think, it's one of those things where it's become a better bang for a buck, as you said, because people don't want to buy it. So wineries that have all this property and it's great, vineyards that have been established are like, well, we're not gonna rip them out. What are we gonna do? We can plant Chardonnay. We could, but they've made themselves, known on Merlot, and they're just making still quality stuff. So it's one of those things where it's never going to really go away, I don't think.
I hope not.
And the irony is now Pinot has become the old Merlot, right? So there's so much Pinot on the market. Now that is less of a bang for your buck. I mean, you go to stores to buy Pinot, or restaurants to buy Pinot, you're going to overpay for the good stuff, and they're going to sell you a bunch of not so good stuff at a reasonable price. So Merlot's a great way to go.
It's funny because wine follows that trend, like we were talking about with restaurants. Man, you have this like people that buy wine in the boxes and they're totally happy, and I get it. Whatever you want to do, you want to get drunk on wine, that's your own game. And then you've got really high end wines that nobody will touch, or they're afraid of, like the unicorn wines, right? Which this is one of them, right? I mean, if you're a mid drinker wine, most of them probably haven't spent the money on Cakebread,
Totally,
and especially not the Chardonnay, just because they don't put it in their head that it's worth it without trying it, which it is. I'm going to say right now, it's 100% worth it for sure. I usually get it and it's too cold at every restaurant that I've tried it at. and I let it sit, and then it's, by that time I've already had 2 other glasses, and I'm like, well, I don't know if it's good or not because the whiskey tastes like whiskey.
Yeah.
Right. But it definitely bang for your buck, man. But I think that happens in both areas, both food and whatever, like we were talking about with restaurant concepts, is that with wine, when you hit the middle ground, that's what's going to hit most in every day. But your low end and your high end are very few and far between. So spreading your wings is the answer. And that's kind of what you have here, right?
Yep. You kind of got the full spectrum. Basically, you've got the startup, which is the Chardonnay, and you've got the high-end cab. And which is interesting. I'd love to see a restaurant kind of play with this idea where a lot of the juice that comes from that high-end cab actually gets knocked down in the lower ends, right? So as a restaurant, how would you do that? Like, you've got 2 concepts, right? You've got Cellar and you've got Hidalgo.
Yeah.
You're going to start doing all your prime fillets and everything, going down into the Hidalgo, do a little carne asada burrito with prime fillet for like $10.
Well,
because sign me up, I'm there, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring that up. Like I serve the same product, and mind you, everything's in growth now. I'm
sure.
What I'm doing over there with the fast food place. It's very much trying to hit a niche right now, but the goal is to not be worse quality. It's to be different.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to have some of these same battles. Is that place is serving the same ground beef that I serve here? It's not different. It's in a different portion size. It's in a different vessel. It's in a different thing. The quality of the meat's still the same. I'm not sacrificing my belief in food to be over there. It's how do we repurpose and do things differently so that it hits a different market and different clientele.
Totally.
And some things you can do that with, and some things you can't. Is what it comes down to. And I'm sure you're visiting that a little bit as you go on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's stark comparison from price point, the Cellar and Hidalgo. So trying to figure out good quality that at a price point that we're taking care of our guests, but also putting some money in our pockets at the end of the day to pay our bills, so to speak. But
it's all an equation, right? I mean, it all comes down to in every business. It all comes down to the equation: how many people coming in your door, how much are they spending, and how many times are they coming back?
Right.
And what do you have to do in the middle ground to make them all smile, happy, without giving them some sort of job?
Right.
And I just left it as it is. Well, thank you, gentlemen. That wine was absolutely freaking delicious. Not what I thought, better than I thought, worth the money. Definitely we'll put some on the racks for Christmas, man. I'm down for the holidays. I definitely that big cab would kill it. I think in both locations.
Yep.
And you'll sell that Chardonnay by the glass all day long. I don't care what the price.
They told me it didn't come by the glass, which I'm going to pick your brain about. That's why I don't have it by the glass.
It's BTG. Absolutely.
I've been sitting on a case of that by.
Come on, Cody. Everything's by the glass at some price,
bro. That's what. Hey, see, we gotta talk to you.
Michael,
did he hear you back there, right?
Where's Michael?
I'm getting somebody in trouble right now, and I like every minute of it. I'm just letting you know. So by the glass, I did not know. That happens, I will put it on. Because I am not a big Rombayer fan. I think it has its place.
Right.
For me, it's like it's too much.
Yep.
For me.
Yeah.
But I know the girls with that come in and drink it. They enjoy it, quote unquote. I just don't think they had anything else, but they enjoy it. They like saying Rombauer. We'll take the Rombauer. Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you for the Wreckless podcast. We are out of here. We're gonna have another glass of that wine, but not with you guys. Tony, have a great day. Peace.